So I'm going to start out super simple model where there's just markets, hierarchies, and democracies, and there's positive feedbacks. So here's the baseline model. I'm going to start with an institutional ensemble, which is a mixture of markets, hierarchies, and democracies. So you could go into every country and you could just sort of count up, or any organization, say what percentage are markets, what percentage are hierarchies, what percentage are things are done democratically. And I think of civic capacity as just being the proportion raised to some exponent. And that exponent is going to be, I'm going to call the degree of vulnerability. And here's why. If that exponent's low, civic capacity is really convex. So I don't need a lot of markets to have a lot of civic capacity for markets. Because if I take 0.1 to the 0.1 power, I actually get something pretty high. If beta equals 1, then civic capacity is linear. And if I've only got 20% markets, I've only got 20% civic capacity for markets. So the next thing we can do is we can add some spillovers. So we can say, let's suppose that democracy, because it builds trust, we understand people more, we are other focused, that it actually creates positive spillovers for hierarchies and markets. That being in a democratic society actually improves markets and hierarchies. Well, then you get this funny thing. You get the paradox of civic capacity building. If civic capacity has that form, then it turns out that you end up with fewer democracies, right? Because what happens is like, as I get more democracies, I'm increasing the civic capacity for the others. And so if I write down the system, I end up with more markets and hierarchies, which is both inefficient and also sort of a paradox, because the one institution that's really allowing us to perform well, we're choosing less of because it's enabling the other institutions to perform better. So now let's go with 5 types: markets, hierarchies, democracies, self-organization, algorithm. And again, this is the sort of like, you know, we've had this move towards algorithm for like online dating and all sorts of other things, right? And as a result, we've had maybe a decrease in the number of corporations. So in this one, if we're in low vulnerability, right? What's interesting is right off the bat here, we start getting more markets. When we have moderate vulnerability, again, we get this crash of democracies and we get the rise of markets and the rise of algorithms. And we have high vulnerability. What's interesting is you can have a society that's largely democratic. And then when the spillover, remember on this axis, the bottom axis is the spillover. When the spillovers get large enough, suddenly you get this collapse of democracy, collapse of self-organization, moderate collapse of hierarchies, and this giant sort of boom in markets and algorithms. And the reason why is, remember, you got this virtuous cycle between democracy and self-organization. So that's why the two of those are kind of like working together and doing fine. You've also got this virtuous cycle between markets and algorithms, but at some point when the spillover gets big enough, you jump from one virtuous cycle to the other one and you move completely to markets and algorithms. And the big question is, could markets and algorithms, could their predominance actually destroy the civic capacity necessary for democracies, right? As we move towards this, you know, sort of like space where we use more and more algorithms to allocate things and things become more and more market-based because technology allows us to, could that actually destroy the civic capacity that we need to sort of create collective intelligence in democratic institutions? And let me stop there, because that's a lot, but let me stop there.